Welcome to ClickMyProject.com.
Now we are going to discuss about the product, a new method for flow-based network intrusion detection using the inverse paths model. Now we are going to discuss about the abstract of the process. Network Intrusion Detection Systems, that is the NIDS, plays an important role as a tool for identifying potential network threats. There are several types of network threats in the context of every increasing traffic volume on computer networks. Flow-based NIDS arise a good solution for real-time traffic classifications. Intrusion detection is one of the most important in the security problems in cyber world. A sufficient number of techniques have been developed which are based on the machine learning approaches. The network-based intrusion detection system is usually placed a network point such as the gateways and then the routers to check the intrusions in the network trafficking. In this system, we are using the dataset CIDS 17 datasets was taken from the dataset repository. Then the system is developed based on the machine learning classifiers to detect whether the intrusion has occurred or not. The experimental result shows some performance such as the accuracies, precisions and error rate. By using these performance parameters, we can justify our process as efficient or not. Now we are going to discuss about the flow diagram of the process. This is the overall flow structure of the process. At first, the input data, which is the data of the intrusion data which have taken from the dataset. The dataset consists of the sum of the data consist of intrusion as well as the non-intrusion data. After getting the dataset from the dataset, we are going to the next step of the process, that is the pre-processing. In this pre-processing, the alignment of the input data will be there. So hence the input data having the raw data which having the several number of attributes as well as the several number of values. We have to align those things. After that, we have just move on to the third step of the process, that is the data augmentation. In this data augmentation, we have to extract the required data and then remove the unnecessary data. After removing some unnecessary data, we have to go for the next step, that is the data splitting. Data splitting consists of two categories. One is the based on test set and then the another one is based on the train set. We have splitting the data into two categories also, that is the test and train data. After splitting the data into test and train, we are just move on to the next step of the process, that is the label encoding. In this label encoding, we have to encode the labels in the numerical format. After encoding the corresponding values, we have just move on to the final step of the process, that is the classification. In this classification, we are using the machine learning techniques to classify whether the intrusion is occurred in that specific data or not. If there is intrusion detected means the type of intrusion name will be displayed, or else the non-intrusion data will be displayed. After the classification, we have to estimate the performance by means of the parameters like accuracy, precision and error rate. By using this accuracy, precision and error rate, we can justify if the accuracy value is high means the performance precisions will be the high. Now we are going to discuss about the initial running procedure of the process. At first, open the Matlab 2015D and change the current directory. If you want to execute the process, just right click in the main_gui.m and select the option run. Now the user interface was open. In that user interface, you can see the several push buttons in the right side for the controlling actions and then some of the tables in the left side for display purpose. First of all, click the button import data. Once you have to select the data from the dataset. After the selection of the corresponding data from the dataset, the values will be shown in the table 1. After that, we just move on to the next step of the process, that is the pre-processing. In this pre-processing step, once the pre-processing is applied, it will be pre-processed, then the data will be aligned based on the attributes. After the alignment of the data, we just move on to the next step, that is the data augmentation. In this data augmentation, we have to find out whether the NaN values, whether some of the unwanted values is there, means it will be neglected. If there is no unwanted values, means it will be remains the same. After the data augmentation, we just move on to the data splitting. In this data splitting, we have to split the input data into one training and testing. This is some of the kinds for the training process, and then this is some of the values for the testing process. After splitting the training and testing separately, we just move on to the label encoding. In this label encoding, the number of test labels and then the number of training labels will be predicted. Then we have to move on to the classification step. In this classification steps only, it will be detected based on the number of test data will be there. So for example, I have some of the test data in this table, means it will be detected whether the first set is benign, second set is benign, like that each and every data will be classified, and then the corresponding type of intrusions will be shown in this column. After the classification was done, we just move on to the performance estimation. In this performance estimation, we can able to find out the performances like accuracies, precision, recall, along with that sensitivity, specificity, and dice coefficients. Hence, that values will be plotted in this bar chart format. Everything will be in the form of percentage.